Hello, hello. We are live. Sean, I love when you do that. I love when you do that.
It makes my week.
Good evening. It does. It does. It's exciting. We're live again. It is that time of the week, Friday Night Lives, where three of us talk about our weeks, talk about things in real estate. So if you're watching us for the first time, we teach people how to invest in real estate, how to strategize with wealth. And on Friday Night Live, we take the opportunity to share our stories, other stories, some tips, some tricks. Some of it is educational, some of it is fun. We're all here to blow off some steam, educate our clients, friends, families, whoever is listening. So if you're watching live, thank you very much. If you're watching it on replay, thank you again. Subscribe, share. It helps this video reach out to more people who will get value from it, and it also supports us. If you are visiting us again, welcome home. We're really, really excited to have you. Tonight's topic is going to be rent vesting. There's a lot of conversation. There's been a lot of conversations and healthy debates around rent vesting. Tonight, I'm going to sit with Sean, Mark, to debrief and understand rent vesting, understand who it is for, who it isn't for. Now, before we begin, as we always do, I've got Sean, Mark, my name is Keshav, and let's get started. But guys, let's start with you, Sean. How's your week been?
Well, the week's been chaotic. I can't complain. It's been chaotic in a great way, though, and that's not going to change yet. But what I always say is it's only the beginning. I can't wait to see what the next chapter unfolds for all of us. And I know we're cranking along, learning a whole bunch of new things all the time and experiencing a whole bunch of a variety in the hot market that we find ourselves in. So navigating those are definitely chaotic, but great nonetheless. What about yourself, Kesh?
Mate, it has been, like Mark says, a cracker of a week, I'll tell you that. It's been very, very busy, a good busy. You're right, it takes a certain level of grit, speed, precaution to really do some deal making in the marketplace. There is definitely opportunity out there, but of course there's a process one must follow, and which is very exciting actually for me. But thanks for asking, Sean. And Mark, what about yourself? How's your week been?
Well, I think we all know the answer to that. It's been a cracker.
I love that. I love that. That's good. So before we begin, guys, we always do a little drink check.
Yes, please.
And Mark, let's start with you. What are we drinking tonight or this evening?
Tonight we are again on the, as I like to call it, the lolly water. We're on the fireball. But it's a nice little refreshing taste. We're coming into some brighter weather. So it's nice. It's nice having something.
There's something about spring. There's something about spring going into summer. It's just, I don't know. I personally, I hate winters. Hate is a very strong word. Can't stand it. One of my goals is skip winters forever. Just always move every time it gets cold to a different place where it's not. But 100%, I agree with you. Sean, what are you drinking?
I'm having a beautiful glass of clear, good old H2O.
Nice. Hydrated because the topic tonight, well, we're going to cover, you need to be hydrated for that. Well, for myself, I switched on the Glen because of obvious reasons. It's spring. I was going to pour myself a little bit of Glen, and then I just said, let me have a dirty lemonade. It's actually a mixture of gin, Sprite, and some lemonade. So I think I went too hard on the gin, to be honest. So if I start slurring, ladies and gentlemen, through this live tonight, I apologize in advance. But without further delay, without wasting any of your time or our time, let's get into it. Tonight's topic, like I said, is rent vesting. We want to understand what it is, why it's right, why it's wrong. So as usual, I'm gonna ask everyone questions here. We're gonna debrief. We're gonna tell our own sides of the story. Again, when it comes to rent vesting, it is a personal choice, and for some people, it could be an amazing choice. So, Sean, I'll begin with you. Can we just give our viewers an understanding of just a very big picture? What is rent vesting?
Sure. That's not putting me on the spot at all, but I'll do my best to describe it. Luckily, I'm not on the gym, so I'll be okay. But rent vesting is the concept where you decide to rent where you want to live, and instead of wasting your own incapacity, you instead invest in other places and continually keep growing your wealth. So you are still a real estate owner, but you just don't happen to have the need or feel the need to be buying necessarily where you live. And rent vesting is something where the concept stems from the ability of having freedom of location of where you'd like to live, and freedom of time. So freedom of how long you want to stay tied down to a specific location, and it gives you the flexibility of being able to move around to different sort of places. Now, rent vesting itself is something that is found very common at the lower end, middle end, but very, very heavily at the higher end of income earners. So at the higher end of income earners, it's just about understanding how your money can start working harder for you, and if rent vesting is the right strategy for you, which for most middle to high income earners, it does tend to be financially the wiser way to do things, even though it goes completely against the American dream or the Australian dream of owning your own home.
100%, 100%. Now, Mark, I'd like to bring you in here as well. Like with rent vesting, as someone who's a professional, you've been around the block, you work with very large scale developers in the capital space, capital raising space. You help as a wealth consultant, you help so many of the hundreds of our clients. And for you, from a rent vesting perspective, what is your understanding of rent vesting? And so far, who have you seen do it well or not do it well sometimes?
I'm a primary example of a rent investor. So it has worked for me over the years, and it continues to work for me, to be honest. Look, we understand that real estate is just going through the roof, and yes, get in as soon as you can, secure yourself, let's say an asset. Let's use Sydney as an example, and leverage off that property over the years to come. Well, I've been fortunate enough to leverage off what I've had over the years anyway, to get to where I'm at these days. And, I haven't necessarily tied myself down with a heavy debt. Okay. Now it's given me flexibility and whatnot, and it works for me. I will continue to do it for quite some time. And, what do the plans hold for me later on down the track? I don't know, whether it be owning a property to live in and call my forever home. If that's not the case, it's not the case. But look, I think rent vesting, I've been quite big on and a big advocate of it, probably for the last 4 or 5 years, especially seeing the market have that massive, I guess, upward shift, and understanding, let's say people that are in their, mid 20s to mid 30s or even early 40s, in a generational space where they're not able to not necessarily get into the market, but they can do a lot more with their money as opposed to just sinking it in a property, sitting on it for 20 odd years and saying that, again, that's my investment plan. How many times, guys, do we say to clients every day? Don't think an investment plan is just paying off your mortgage and sitting on your hands for the next 20, 30 years, because it's not, right? And I have always said, and I'll still continue to say it from today onwards, rent vesting is only beneficial if you are investing. If you're not and you're just renting, then it is just a waste of time. So you are better than just buying your own home and sitting on it for 20 years and at least having something. But as long as you continue to do something, and it doesn't have to just be real estate, but invest in something that will give you a return, then I'm all for it.
100%, Mark. I agree with you. So often the argument I hear very common from people is, let me give you a scenario here so our audience gets an understanding. Let's say one partner earns $110,000. The other partner earns $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. They've got a borrowing capacity circa million, 1.2, whatever, 6.5 times, whatever that might be. And what often happens is, now let's just say this demographic, say someone in their early 30s, right? One child, no child, that sort of situation. Now, where rent vesting for me comes in is this person might have $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 saved up for a deposit. Now, the reality is that maybe a couple of years ago, maybe 10 years ago, that was sufficient deposit to buy something decent in Sydney, at least get your foot in the door. Now, what's happening is people are locking themselves into mortgages based on affordability and not the type of asset. And where for me personally, I just go, there's two ways. Either these people continue to rent while they're able to save up the money to finally get into the market, if you will. But then they end up buying a property that they don't like anyway, and they end up living in a location that is inconvenient for work, for life. so on and so forth. So when you're in a situation like that, the quickest way to make money, the quickest way to even get your deposit is to park that money in some sort of investment, right? Be that real estate, be that shares, be that Bitcoin going to the moon, or whatever floats your boat. For me, for Sean, for yourself, I know we have a real estate bias, not only from a business perspective, but in our personal lives, we really enjoyed the fruits of our investments, right? So I find it quite silly when I see people buying a property, tying themselves into a 30-year mortgage for a suburb that they don't like. And when I look at the current lockdown scenario, mate, like someone who is renting in Bondi or is renting in Manly, you could be renting something anywhere between $600 a week for a studio up to $3,000 a week for something decent, right? So it doesn't matter what it is. But if you had to flip that for a house over there, you would have to outlay so much more cash. So someone who was living in, say, really like far off suburbia, no train station, no hospital, no shops, no parks, house after house after house in the middle. The new master plans are very different. Like some older master plans were built horribly. There was no thought put behind it. The thermodynamics of the suburb, the homes are horrible. They get hotter, they get cooler. So imagine these people locked in an LGA where you're not allowed to go out. You're stuck. And the only thing that you can see every time you step out of your home is just other houses. Versus someone in Manly or someone in Bondi is going out for a swim because that's within their 5-kilometer LGA. So I go, if I'm going to be paying $1,000 a week or $2,000 a week or whatever your affordability is, mate, so $300, whatever it is, I would like to live in a place where that suits my lifestyle, and I would like to own real estate that will make me money. The other thing I get out of Rentvesting in my personal life, I'm happy to share this. We were fortunate enough to get our principal place of residence pretty early on in our life, and I would be okay to be in that property for fairly a long time. But because it's just me and the wife, we actually rented that out because it's unnecessary for us to have it. We don't have any children at the moment. We don't have all of those things. And I would rent somewhere where it's convenient to places work off, because for me, my time is valuable. You, myself, Sean, some days we're doing 14-hour days, some days, 15-hour days, some days. Some days we're working 6-7 days because of the way the market is going. And all of us, the clients come first. We must we got to do what we're meant to do. And I don't have the time. I wouldn't say I don't have the luxury of time to wrap up work and drive 2 hours to a gym, or drive 45 minutes to a park, or drive an hour to a beach. But, mate, I just can't afford to do that. So for me, I like to buy things that will make me money, will give me tax back, instead of compromising and buying stuff where I'm not enjoying it. It's not the home I wanted anyway, nor is it the suburb that I really like. And often, the funny thing is, I can tell you, with certain nationalities, schooling is very important, right? And you need to be in a certain LGA, if it's a select school, private school, so on and so forth. And then where your budget allows you to buy is not in that section, and they're constantly torn between this. So, and then they end up buying, say for example, they end up buying a more inferior asset. So they couldn't afford the 5-bedroom home, so they buy this 1-bedroom studio where a family of 4 is trying to adjust. Where I go, no, just rent the 3-bedroom house in that suburb till your kid needs to go to school. Buy an asset that's going to make you money. And eventually, if you're someone whose income will go up, you can leverage that asset to buy your own home, or just keep going. I understand it can be frustrating where people go, mate, my landlord can kick me out, or this and that. But I personally in my life have negotiated deals where I've gotten better rent because I'm willing to commit for 3 years. And the higher up you go in the sort of properties you rent, the more freedom you have. If you want to pay $300 rent and then you want to hang a TV and change curtains, it's not going to happen. If you're renting in a very affluent suburb and I go to a landlord and say, mate, I'm happy to commit at X or Y Z rent for 3 years, don't worry about it, I can do whatever I want. You know what I mean? So for me, renting is freedom. Now, the second thing, Sean, and I'd love you to jump in here, is what I find super scary, and we've spoken about this in the last episode, is when I take a mortgage against my name and my partner's name, or like buy a home, right? Like a regular dude buy a home. And basically I'm committing to that 30-year mortgage based on my ability to earn money and pay for that mortgage, right? Now, in the off chance something does happen to me on my income, and especially in Sydney, unfortunately, a lot of people have literally maxed themselves up, where one person literally needs to go to work to pay that mortgage, which is, according to me, is a super dangerous way to live. I'm all about leverage and investing, but all against my name. Where that makes me really uncomfortable, I go, God forbid something happens to my health, my life, and I'm unable to pay this mortgage. My family is going to be homeless. I'm going to have no spare savings because I was trying to pay this mortgage off because I maxed myself out. Versus if I have an investment property, and if you've done it right, pretty much you don't have to pay anything for it. Your tenant is paying the mortgage or portion of the mortgage. If you bought it in the right area, you would not have vacancy for more than 2 or 3 weeks. Worst case scenario, right? Through COVID, I've never had a vacancy over 3 weeks, ever. Right? Without rental discounting, nothing. If you've done your due diligence, you've done your numbers, you know where you're buying, right? But with my own property, what scares me is I'm solely responsible for this bugger. Right? Yeah, you can do a 6 months mortgage, hardship, blah, blah, blah. Then what? And God forbid I've got no equity in that deal. Or have negative equity. It's happened to people. People bought apartments in Parramatta and Harris Park and so on and so forth. And they've gone $50,000 backwards in the biggest boom Sydney's ever seen. Right? So for me, I just go, if my income disappears and I can't pay $2,000 a week in rent or $100 a week in rent or whatever it is, I just move into a cheaper apartment or cheaper house. Like if you're someone who's got the luxury of your parents, move in with your parents. I don't know. Like what, you know what I mean? So I have that flexibility, and that's what I really, really like about rent investing. Sean, what are your thoughts about what I've just discussed about taking on such a massive risk? It's very different when the payments are comfortable and you're able to save 30-40% on top, versus you literally go to work to pay your mortgage, or your partner goes to work to pay the mortgage, and you've got no spare cash left, no money on Christmas, no bloody holidays, and your entire life circulates around the fact that you're going to spend the next 30 years paying for something that you just literally sleep in.
It just goes back to what you said, if you're unable to pay that mortgage. So think of it this way. I ask this question to clients during discoveries and strategies all the time. And the question is, let's assume that you've built an investment portfolio, you've got 3 investment properties, and now everyone's lost their job, there's no income, and you need a bit of an umbrella buffer. And people have their home where they're living in, and they're paying the mortgage at home, and they've got 3 investment properties running on the side now. And I ask this to the families all the time. I say, to give yourselves the cushion, what are you going to do? Would you sell your investment properties, or would you sell your home, which roofs which roofs your children? And most families mention, we'd sell a couple of investment properties to keep ourselves afloat. And the reality of the situation is, what you should be doing is 100%, if you really needed cash, not selling the investment property, because guess what? Whether you work hard or not, it should be looking after itself if it's structured correctly. Or worst case, even a job at Woolies, even a job at McDonald's can still pay for a well-structured investment portfolio. Whereas a job at McDonald's might not necessarily pay for a $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 monthly mortgage. Now, here's the best part. From a financial strategy, if you sold your home, you get to sell it tax-free, and you get to re-enter at a time where you're more comfortable. That is really a better buffer to get yourself back on your feet, as opposed to selling your investment properties, which are actually tax-deductible assets, which are income-producing assets, and they actually survive completely whether you're earning well or not.
Sean, I'll just jump in there very quickly, because that just gave me a thought. It could be the gin, I don't know. Do you know what you just said there is so true, because I can't tell you the amount of times I've heard people say the same thing that you said, I'll sell the investment. And I go, it's like you saying to your boss, hey, I've had like a personal loss in my life where I need to cover cash, but I'm going to quit my job. Businesses buy homes. Homes don't buy businesses. And investing, your investment properties, you're in the business of real estate. So you're basically saying, I'm screwed, so let me sell my golden egg to bail me out, to then be broke again. like it just doesn't make sense. Now, Mark,
let's why emotions get into it. So emotions play a massive part because you feel like, oh, I'm paying a mortgage where I live, so I own my property. No, you don't. You just rent your property from the bank for 30 years and you pay twice as much. Now, if you're still saying, oh, well, at the end of it, I'll get to own it. It's the same for the investment property, except the investment property saving you taxes, right?
The investment property
it's also yielding your income.
Oh, 100%, mate. 100%. I actually did some math today, right? So if someone's earning $100,000 a year and their partner's earning 70, 80, they're paying about $38,000 a year in what do you say, tax. If you work that out over 30 years, that's about $1.1 million, 1.14 million actually, in tax that they've ended up paying. Now, if they borrowed for a $1.1 million home, they borrowed $900,000, and if the interest rates remain 3%, on top of the $1.1 million, they would end up paying another $500,000 in interest. So you're saying to me that you're better off attaching yourself to a property you don't like anyway, and it's a compromise just so that you can paint the walls pink, and you're willing to lose $1.6 million of your hard-earned money on the way to say, hey, I bought this property for $1 million, now it's worth $3 million. You lost that 1.5 anyway. So even if it was worth $3 million, like what was the point? The opportunity cost of that versus why don't you rent in a place that you like, in an area where you've got good schools, close to the office, whatever fits your lifestyle, mate. Like, I don't know, if you're an older person, close to a hospital, if you're a younger person, maybe close to a nightclub, I don't know, whatever floats your boat, or close to your office.
COVID disco.
Buy real estate. and buy real estate where you can, because I find it really ridiculous that, and I have this conversation so many times, there's certain places in Sydney that I would very comfortably live over the next 30 years. And if I wasn't blessed enough, or I wasn't in a position enough to buy something over there, even if I had the money, if it didn't make financial sense, where I'm maxing myself out to buy an asset that is non-tax effective debt, I might just rent there and buy other properties. So I completely understand when people say rent is a waste of money. I get that if you don't have any other assets. And if you're someone who's worked really hard to put $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 together and you can't get into Sydney, big whoop. Because by the time you save up, guys, for the next, Sydney's going to keep moving. The better way for you to do that, if that's what you really want to do and that's your heart's desire, go out and invest and grow your money. And if you really want your dream home, mate, working 9 to 5 and watching Netflix isn't going to cut it. Then you got to hustle. You want something, you got to pay the price. As simple as that. No one magical is going to come and change your life. So when it comes to rent vesting, for me, I reckon there's a lot of education out there that people need to understand. You've got to sit down and do your math and understand, okay, am I willing to spend $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month on something for the next 30 years? And after spending that money, am I left over with some extra money to make investments, to live my lifestyle, to spend time with my family, go on holidays, whatever it might be, whatever floats your boat? Or I'm not one of those people. I'm not going to drive a $3,000 piece of shit Corolla, live in a suburb I don't like, and pay a mortgage, pay for a property that I don't even like living in.
If you have a $3,000 shitbox Corolla though, and you are qualified to do wealth building, still get in touch with us and sign right here. I'm really happy to help you get out of the Corolla rat race and get into that M Sport vehicle, or the La Portofino, or whatever it takes. Sign here. But we're happy to help anyone, no matter what you drive.
But you know what I mean. I'm not stereotyping. If I'm offending people, I'm sorry. But it's just I find sometimes I just sit there and I just. You know, there's a time in your life where you explain stuff to people, and there's a time in your life you can't be bothered. You just go like, "What are you doing? Like, It just doesn't make any sense. And the funny thing is, all of these people, a lot of these people are very well educated. They are experienced. They are doing really well in their careers. But it is just their psychology, their mindset that fails them. Because the other day, I'll tell you a story. So the other day, I had a very, very close acquaintance, I'd call him, not a friend, that called me up, who bought in a really good area, has done really well. But for the last 2.5 years, 3 years, actually, not the last two, before previous Corona, for 3 years, he was traveling back and forth almost an hour and a half from work. Okay. He's got a young family, and he was quite frustrated because by the time he'd get home, his beautiful little baby daughter would be asleep. And he's a guy who works in the civil engineering space. And he does a few government projects, infrastructure. So he's all about, he works pretty much, and this project was, so he pretty much lives very close to Wollongong, and he has had a lot of work in the Central Coast, and that is his main source of income, and he can't switch jobs because what that pays him, something else wouldn't, right? He's got a young child. His wife's on maternity leave because he owns his property for the last, I don't know how many, 3 or 4 years, he's been driving 3 hours at average one way, right? And the other day, he just called me up, frustrated, having issues with the marriage for obvious reasons, frustrated with his life, questioning his existence. We all get to that point once or twice in our lives, a few times, a couple of months,
or even
at least a week.
If you meet.
You question your existence. Oh, everyone does it. Everyone does it. You have a little crisis moment of, you go, we're on LinkedIn, so I'm not going to swear, but you have the WTF moment saying, what am I doing? You look in the mirror. And I just didn't get it. And I said, the house that you bought, why did you buy it? He said, mate, I bought it there because I was working there and I could afford it. And I said, what is afforded? He said, it was okay when the missus was working, but when she went off work on mat leave, the entire mortgage just fell on me and I hadn't thought it through. And now it's really become a position where I'm actually having to pick up extra work that I don't need to do just to keep us afloat because our savings completely dropped. And I just sat there and we worked out his numbers, and I said, mate, like, what's your mortgage? And his debt to yield ratio on that property would have been 6.5%. Basically saying if he's borrowing at 2s and 3s, he would be earning a 6% on his debt. So I said, mate, why don't you just rent it out? You've got a fixed interest rate or whatever, and you go closer to work. Your kid's not in school, or your missus isn't working, so you're fine for the next 2-3 years or whatever it might be. And when we worked out his numbers, I promise you, he had tears in his eyes, and he goes, I'm an engineer. I do maths every day. And I didn't sit there and once think about doing some simple math where I could have saved 6 hours a day, that time that will never come back. I missed the first time my daughter walked. I missed so many firsts. And even when I was there, I was so stressed out, tired. And if I had just done this math, if I had just called you, and when he looked at it, he said, mate, I don't even need to call you. Like, this is so obvious.
Wow.
And I go, mate, like, and I said, brother, like, all the money in the world, like, we talk about money and investments and AMGs and watches, and none of it matters if you don't have the quality of life to spend with it. What is it all for?
Yeah.
If you can't spend time with your loved ones, with a smile on your face, with you being actually present there, it's not worth anything. I don't want, like, nothing is worth it for me. You know what I mean? And when I saw that moment, I really realized, and that's why I said to Sean today, I said, mate, we got to talk about Rentvesting, because it's not just an investment strategy. It could be a life changer for some people. And I don't want people, and especially in Sydney today, I know a lot of people are frustrated. They feel stuck. They feel that the market is just getting away. And I know it can be frustrating. You're working hard. You're trying your best. It is okay. It is really okay. Don't think of rent as a waste of money. Think you're leveraging time in someone else's space for a fraction of the cost. Because the yields in Sydney are shit anyway, so you're definitely not paying someone's mortgage in Sydney, I tell you that much. Even if you're renting. So you don't feel frustrated. There is a way forward for you. And if you don't understand how those numbers work for you, whether you should be rent vesting or not, speak to someone. Speak to me, speak to Mark, speak to Sean, speak to your friends if someone's doing it effectively. But of course, don't keep renting like you guys said, because then that's just a pure waste, because you've not parked your money anywhere else. The whole idea of rent vesting is, can I live in a location that I like for far less money, have some spare cash left over that I could spend towards investments, lifestyle. So I live where it suits me, my family, my children, my needs, my lifestyle, and I park money where I can create some wealth for myself. And if you've started late in life, you're a younger person, or you've just, I don't know, whatever, you've not had the salary you had today, and you wish you could have bought the property you wanted to 10 years ago, and you missed the boat, don't kick yourself. And if you really wanted that hard, start rent vesting and go harder. As your income goes up, go buy it cash.
Can I say as well, if we go back to say 2017, let's talk about the era of leading into the Royal Commission and stuff like that, and what was on people's lips at the time. Everyone was talking about being a rent vestor and how good it was back then. And that was because we were paying interest rates of, I don't know, 3 or so. The RBA was sitting at, what was it, 2% at that time or thereabouts. But, interest rates were a bit higher accordingly, even if they're at 3 to 4%, as the lowest part of the market. It was cheaper to rent than it was to own your own home. So there was a massive push in the market across a lot of different firms. And, it was pushed on by people mortgage brokers, people in real estate, agents, everyone was saying, hey, rent vesting is probably a better way to be. Now we're in 2021. We've seen record low interest rates. We may or may not move into negative interest rate territory. Who knows, right? But regardless, now the media jumps back in, as they always do, and tell the world that it's cheaper to live in your own home and it's better to buy. But again, they're not telling you that, oh, by the way, you also need to have $200,000 to put towards a fibro house out 45 minutes from the Sydney CBD, and that's just to get in. And if you don't want to put that 200,000, well, you're still going to need at least a minimum, call it 100 to 150 anyway, right? Plus stamps, plus LMI, and all the other bits and pieces that will come with it, right? So
and plus your council rates that they don't talk about, plus your insurances that you need as a homeowner as well, which you don't have to pay when you rent.
It's easy to look at it from a comparison and say you spend $500 a week in rent as opposed to $600 a week in mortgage, and say, oh, it's so much better to rent vest, or it's so much better. It's crazy the way the media will play with people's minds as well. And you're exactly right, Sean. They don't give you the full picture of what the total outlay is supposed to be.
Sean, that just reminded me. Another story, and I feel like telling stories. Must be the gin. I don't know.
Gin. What's the brand of gin? Let's promote them and let's get them to sponsor us so that they can sign.
I reckon. I don't know much about gin, but like Bombay Sapphire, damn, it's doing it for me today. I'll tell you that. But this reminded me of someone that again works in a certain place. I'm not gonna drop names and suburbs and whatever, and ended up buying an apartment in that suburb because that's what they could afford, and it was close to work and wasn't the sort of place they needed. They got 2 children, 2-bedroom apartment. COVID happened, very frustrating. And for the same amount of money, they could have purchased something in a place like Box Hill or Marsden Park at the time, actually. And what has happened to that apartment, and again, I'm not bagging out apartments or anything like that, but what has happened in the same 2-3 year timeline, their property that they purchased, let's just say circa 700, is sitting at 720 or 690 or something like that. And at the time I had a discussion with them saying, mate, rent the place if you really like it. Even if you wanted to buy an apartment, that's not the one to buy. Like I would buy something which would be more attractive for downsizes, more lifestyle, Tesla car chargers, rooftop pool, I want the works. If I buy an apartment, got to look like a 5-star hotel. But anyway, long story short, I had made a recommendation to this person the other time because they didn't have the greatest affordability to be able to buy the house over there. But it worked for their lifestyle and whatever. And I said, mate, look, just rent. Let's buy something else that you can afford. The cash flow is going to be easy, blah, blah, blah. And the property that was recommended to them is valued in at almost $950,000 by value. If they resold it, maybe 1.3. And basically what happened was they purchased this land unregistered at the time. They could have bought this land and another client did. So say you bought something circa 600, valuer comes back at 950. Now you're buying it at a 20% LVR because if your land registered after 12 months, you can go off the valuation, not the purchase, the contract. Yeah. The valuation is $200,000-$300,000. So they pretty much had to put no money down and they bought a property with at 80% LVR, pretty much got a free property, if you will. So again, this was that emotional decision of, oh, I really have been dreaming of this day. I get it. I absolutely get it. I completely understand. And when the media says that, you could be renting, it's subjective, right? It's subjective. You can't make, you could be going really well in life, buying a house in Bellevue Hill. You need the dollars, but you can rent. You buying a house next to, say, Knox Grammar in Warringah, you need $3, $4, $5 million. You can rent a house there for $1,300 a week. Send your kids to one of the top schools. You know what I mean? It's just, but people don't. But I would do $1,300 a week rent if I could save another $2,000, $3,000 on top. You know what I mean? If I'm comparing buying in Warringah versus renting in Warringah, for example, or buying in Bella Vista versus rent. For the people who bought 10, 20, 30 years ago, it was fine. So what is your income to debt ratio? With this example that I gave you, my mate was struggling because his missus went on mat leave. They didn't think it through. And that could happen with anyone. Mat leave was one example. You could have been made redundant and the $750 per week generous payment might not be enough or whatever it might be. You know what I mean? So it's super important for you to understand what your personal circumstances are. And if it's really confusing, and I'm not going pro Rentvesting, that's the only way to go. But for most people today who want a good lifestyle, who live in great suburbs, there's a premium attached to it, mate. Because people who have money bought there.
And the families and the families that do the whole, the whole big dream home splash or the starter home splash and jump into a mortgage. Their daily stress is the fact that I've got 25 more years on this thing. I've got 25 more years on this thing. And if they're sitting around rambling about how much more stress that they have, who was the one that asked them to max out on that home purchase anyway? You don't have to. So you can buy a dream home, but if you've got an extra spare $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 after buying your dream home or after reducing your expectations as to where you should live, then excellent. By all means, go ahead and buy a place to live, because then you're obviously getting some benefits as to when you sell your home that you live in, you're getting it sold at capital gains tax-free rates, right? So you get to sell tax-free and you get to hop that into a future asset as well.
100% sure. Yeah. 100%. You know, Mark, people, we've watched Selling Sunset or whatever, I don't know, the crazy 10, 20, 30, $40 million homes. What people need to understand is this. Is real estate a good place to park money? Absolutely. Does it leave you with spare cash? Yes or no? How much spare cash and what can you do with it? So if you come back to me and say, mate, after this mortgage, me and the missus can save, I don't know, $500 a week, and that's a fraction of your income. That's horrible. That is a dangerous way to live, right? So I know people that have bought 10, 20, 30 million. Mate, they're not looking at LVRs and return. This person's making a decision between should I buy a 50-foot boat or should I buy an oceanfront home? And they go, maybe I've claimed too much depreciation this year. I'll just buy the $50 million home.
And these are tough problems to have.
100%. So if you're someone, honestly, and I'm being legit, if you're someone aspiring to live in a suburb and you can't get there, the answer is not stretching yourself to death. The answer is to rent in that suburb, buy real estate in places where you can afford to and create money, and concentrate on your personal income. Take responsibility. Just because you and I like watches or cars, mate, yeah. Can you pay $5,000 a month to drive a Lamborghini? Of course. Is that dumb if that's all you made? 100% it is. So if you can buy and buying a stupid house that you can't afford is as silly as that.
So true. But Kesh, you asked a very good question there. Oh, thanks for the comment, Jennifer. Yes, the owner-occupied mortgage is completely unnecessary. Awesome. So thanks for the analogy there, Kesh. You know, if you made $5,000 a month and then you ended up renting a Lamborghini and then you're left with nothing else, is that a wise decision? I would still do that and be really happy. Even if I had not a single dollar to my name after that, I'd be very happy. So, and this is just genuine being honest, because what you have to do as in life is when you make a decision, the word decision is to detach being stuck there, right? Someone's got a baby somewhere. It's not mine, by the way. But when you make a decision and be comfortable with the decision, if you go for the dream home and you're loving it, you're enjoying paying the mortgage and you're enjoying, raising your kids there, you're enjoying painting the walls, then great, you're the one that made that decision, live with it. If you're someone who's saying, you know what, I'm going to strive and work hard and then I'm going to finally buy my dream home in cash, great, resonate with the decision then. Where people go wrong is, you know how they say, oh, you know what, easy for some people to say, they're tossing up between buying a sports car and they're tossing up between buying a luxury yacht, right? For example, what I learned very early in my career was amazing. It was like blissful. It set me free straight away, because one of the first few clients that I'd signed up happens to be one of our wealthiest clients at the firm. And what I realized is that their day-to-day life, the amount of problems that they had, they were earning a boatload of income. But what I realized is they were just equally as unhappy as the person I met the day before them. And the person I met the day before them was your mom and dad earning 60 grand each. And they were actually happier than the wealthiest client that I'd met the day after. Because the guy that's working so hard, everyone's got a journey to follow. Everyone has the same level of problems to solve. It's just sometimes the way you arrive at those problems, right? It's just sometimes the way you want to convince yourself to work hard. So I would say to most people out there, don't fall for other people's traps. What are other people's traps? Oh, gentlemen, don't work too hard. Only focus on your family. Well, great. If you only focus on your family, then you're not really bringing them home anything nice either, are you? So, and then don't fall for the trap, which is, only work hard, and because that's all that matters. But there are some people that are genuinely content with working hard and taking goals. If that's what drives you, do you. So when all investors and home buyers and families and wealthy people have to do is just make a decision that they're content with, because at the end of the day, everyone's going to have a different opinion on what you should and shouldn't be doing. Is an education required to be successful in life? Well, we know right now it's not required to be successful in life. But still, some people will say, you still got to have the education, right? No matter where you end up.
I want my kid to be a YouTuber. No, but you're right. You're right. I only joke, but you're absolutely right there, because it's horses for courses. And if you don't understand, there's something. I'll tell you what. I'm not going to give you a cop-out answer. It's as simple as this, right? Can you afford your dream home? If you can't, you should be rent investing, because what you're doing is compromising and rolling over and giving up, because that's what you think. That's what life has for you. Life is what you make of it, and I believe in that. I truly execute it every single day, and all of us do. And if you're not in your dream home right now, rent close to it. Watch it every day. Hustle in your actual career to get there, and buy investments. Buy whatever, whether it's real estate, share, whatever your circle of competence is. Right? It's very important to have a circle of competence. Right? So to give you an example, Warren Buffett was best friends with Bill Gates, still bought Coca-Cola, Gillette, did his own thing, right? Didn't buy into Microsoft or Google because he said, that is not my circle of competence. I don't understand that business. And I know tomorrow, whether there's IBM or Microsoft, people are going to shave. I'm going to buy Gillette. He wanted to stick to the FMCG and whatever his calculations were, right? There's no right or wrong. There are other people who are heavy tech investors, right? The people who've made a mozza buying apartments, people who have made a mozza buying house and land, people made a mozza doing development. what is your circle of competence? What is your active job, your active income allow you to do? Is there going to be a balance of lifestyle, income, savings, and investments with your decision making? And the only thing that will never lie to people is their math. Now, Sean, should I put you on the spot? Do we have a hot question before we wrap up? Do we? Or do I put you on the spot?
So we're a little bit on the spot, but I do have an amazing set of our classic rapid round robins that I'm so excited for. But Kesh, I think before wrapping up, you're doing something really excellent next week on Tuesday, I think. Do you want to just quickly share a little bit about that? Because I think the last time around, I got amazing feedback from everyone that tuned in. Because we need to do our sign here now.
You're making me blush, but here you go. There's a shameless plug for you guys, but it's actually, you know what? I love this stuff. If you guys can't tell, Mark loves this stuff. Sean loves it. We live to do this for our clients, for ourselves. I wouldn't do anything else. So on Tuesday next week at 7 p.m. on Zoom from the comfort of your home, I am doing a workshop, the ultimate property investment webinar, where I will take you through step by step on how to build a multi-million-dollar portfolio very, very safely. This is not some gimmick. I'm not going to tell you to go buy 50 properties. I'm going to take you through a practical step by step. So I don't care if you've got no homes. I don't care if you've got 10 homes. Wherever you sit right now, I'm sure this is going to make sense to you. So I'm going to take you through a step-by-step process. My only two requirements when you come for this webinar is this. Make sure you have a drink, whether it's a beer, it's a tea, it's a coffee, whatever it is, and have a notebook and a pencil with you. Please take notes, because I actually go through a workshop. The reason I'm asking you to do this is by the end of my webinar, you would have learned so much. You can literally go out the door and start applying it the next day. No jokes. So there's no rubbish. I'm not selling you anything. I'm not going to sell you steak knives or a vacuum cleaner or an encyclopedia or an Amazon dropshipping course or whatever. I'll tell you how to be a billionaire. None of that. It's legit. If you're someone who's been curious, you're someone who's already in the market, come and watch. This is my plug. Tuesday night, the ultimate property investment webinar. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Now, before we wrap up, let's do our little rapid fire robins.
All right, gentlemen, it's my time to put you both on the spot. We'll kick off with Mark the Wolf of Marsden Street. What is the lamest excuse you have ever heard from a client to not be an investor?
Oh. Do we have a couple of minutes to answer this, or
yes,
the next 2 days?
Oh, mate, go for it. Take your time.
We can live stream right till Monday morning. I'm okay.
Right. If you're, I've got meetings tomorrow, but other than that, I'll do them live, mate. If you're gonna go for long, I'll get a refill.
Yeah, go for it. I think you'll always get the standard. What if there's no tenants? What if all of a sudden the world comes crashing down? And I say, of course, what if you die tomorrow? All of this is just a big waste of time, right? But at the same time, we're here to talk about it anyway. And there's going to be a lot of contingency that we need to work out. But at the same time, who cares? It's all part of the game. That's proper planning. That rent is one thing I get a lot of the time. Another time is when people are telling me that they're waiting for the dip. I think that's a pretty comical type of answer that I get.
I'm going to do a topic on this. I'm publicly saying this right now. I take a public challenge. Show me a time in Sydney where the next dip, say the 2010 dip or 2008 dip, was higher than the 2017 or 2018 dip. I take a public challenge. If you buy in the right, unless you go to some godforsaken mining town, mate, God bless you.
Yeah.
But if you have the fundamentals of APIE, and if you don't understand that, watch my webinar.
Yes, and just buy here direct.
No, but no jokes. I take a public challenge. Show me one dip in Sydney, because a lot of people watching this are in Sydney right now. That was the next one. This is rubbish. You are arrogant if you think you control the market. The market is made up of multiple individuals, and just because you don't have money doesn't. Do you know how many times a day I get? I'm like, I don't know what's happening to Corona. Why is it booming? I'm like, you know, people went from $80,000 jobs to $400,000 jobs.
Yeah.
You know, certain industries are busier than ever.
Yeah. People
So
some people are earning more than they've ever earned in their life before right now.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. You're right. You're right. Sorry, Mark. I got really passionate.
To be honest,
annoyed the shit out of me.
I will leave it from my end on that, because they are the two most common, lamest excuses that I get from time to time. And to be honest, the rent one doesn't bug me as much as the dip. The dip, I believe, is exactly what Kesh just said. It's very arrogant. It's thinking that you know more than, not me or anyone else, but knowing more than the market. Again, we all know that the market controls whatever the hell it wants to do. No one determined Corona and what it did over the last 24 months, call it, or 18 months, right? So I think that is probably the stupidest excuse. Is the property market forever going to go like that? No, of course it's not, but it's not going to go down all of a sudden. It's not going to go from, let's say, a median price in Sydney at 1.1 or 1.2.
Mate, I'll tell you what.
It's not going to go to 600,000 overnight, and you are going to be waiting a bloody long time, or you're going to be 6 feet under, right, and very, very old by the time that ever happens, if it ever does.
Mate, I will quit this industry if I see a $3 million home become $500,000 in Sydney. I publicly will quit this industry. I will never talk real estate if I watch a $3 million home in Sydney become $500,000. I will say that I respect the market. One Elon Musk tweet doesn't cry. The market is made up of homeowners, people, their livelihoods. It's $9 trillion of the Australian economy, right? No country, no government wants their people, forget investors, no government wants people to be homeless. We're talking about people's roofs here, keeping their kids safe. So every time it actually annoys me when someone says, I'm going to buy through the dip. I'm like, you're basically saying, yeah, a lot of us, and like few of us are investors here, but you're talking about someone's livelihood. That person is committed to a 30-year mortgage, and what you're wishing on them is, hey, mate, you've paid a couple of $1 million for this place, or you've paid your $800,000 mortgage finally down, and you paid $800,000, your house is worth $350,000. Why would you wish that on someone? And it's not going to happen. So if you think you're arrogant, I don't care if you're Warren Buffett or Jimmy Buffett, it's not going to happen.
And the good thing is, there's going to be someone watching this or hearing this, sitting really far away in the corner going, oh, I can't wait till it becomes 500,000. I'm going to see if Keshav resigns.
The keyboard warriors, keyboard warriors can have a go, mate. I'll take a public challenge for this. 100%. I know my math.
And then they're going to be isolated in the caves somewhere over the next 100 years, still waiting, just like that.
They can be living on a tree with some drop bears.
Yeah. And just what about for yourself? What was your latest excuse you've ever heard for someone not to be an investor or not to invest?
My favorite one is, I got to talk to my wife.
Oh, yeah.
I don't understand in the first place why your partner wasn't there when you were making such a substantial decision, even after you've been told multiple times, I would not buy a property without my wife's consent. So mate, you're a brave man. I'm not going to sleep in the garage. I'll tell you that much. So I don't understand, after multiple times of we having discussions, of me requesting, whether it's your wife or husband, whatever it might be, your partner, essentially, why would you have multiple discussions to the point where it's time to decide on what property to buy, and then say, I got to go speak to why weren't they part of that decision? What were you thinking? Like, what were you thinking? And usually the excuse is because they're just scared, right? It's just something to say, and that's their mindset, right? And this reflects everywhere in their life. When a friend makes a plan, my dad wouldn't let me out, or my mom wouldn't, mate, just cop up and say, I don't want to hang out with you, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Right? That's one. The worst one I heard, and I've heard it a couple of times, I'll tell you. I heard, I don't want to buy real estate. It's going to dip in 2013 a lot. 2013, I heard a lot of people say, oh, maybe next year. They ended up paying 200 grand more. I heard a lot that did this shit through COVID. Actually, you know what? Personally, every time I see a lot of fear, I do the opposite. I'm just like, no, I'm buying.
Yeah.
100% I'm buying, because if this is the person who's making that decision, you know. And then the worst thing I saw is through the pandemic, I had some very educated people who said this 40% crash is going to happen. When I tried to explain to them, if $8 trillion, 40% of that disappears, like $2-3 trillion disappears from the economy, you wouldn't be worrying about real estate. You'd be worrying about your livelihood. I'm pretty sure the banks will collapse. No one will come calling for your mortgage. You'll be all right. So you probably get your house for free. So I think that I'll buy it next year. And for me, I just sit there and I go, so you're telling me between October now and February next year, you're going to have the tooth fairy change your situation substantially, or you think that please? And when you actually go in and you ask them of, okay, you tell me what is going to be different between now and, I just have a feeling. And then, mate, like I said to you once, there's some excuses that are just not worth a response. You know what you do? You go, cheers. I'll talk about you on Friday on my life, and I'll get over it. I wish you all the best with all your success and future endeavors. Because you know what? Some people, and that's why, bro, like 1% of the world is always going to control the other 99%. And I don't care what you think or who you say, you can take away all their money, they'll bounce back up. It's not about their money. It's not it's a mindset. And either you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. And that's the difference. You can be fearful if your fears are valid. You can have excuses that are legit. If they're baseless and you're just scared, my solution is put your hand up. Like every time I'm scared, I'm uncertain, I put my hand up and I speak to someone about it. As simple as that. If I don't understand something, I put my hand up and I say, hey, I don't understand this. Can you please explain this to me?
And that's the power of a core team. Power of a core team.
100%. Like I call myself a bush accountant. I know just enough to get enough tax back. I don't care what, mate, like I watch the budget enough for what I understand. And my accountant is so fantastic, he's a phone call away. I'm not going to a $50 shopping center accountant. You know what I mean? Like, you want to have the right team. You've got to have the right solicitor. You've got to have the right broker. You've got to have the right deal makers, if you will, to negotiate, leverage, get you the right deal. So yeah, that again, I digress here, but yeah, that is the most bullshit excuse. I got to talk to my wife and my significant other half. I'm like, you kidding me? Or the other one, maybe I will do it next year. I get it. If your situation, you weren't in a situation, we wouldn't be having a conversation about doing anything anyway. But you're in a situation, the fundamentals are there, the market's moving. So I don't know, mate. Like I sometimes actually really like when people do that, because subconsciously I go, great. So that means I get a tenant like that forever, because this guy's never going to have the capital and he'll always have to rent, or he'll eventually have to sell because he won't have any super, he won't have any savings. So by that time he's slogged his ass off, or she slogged her ass off to pay off the mortgage in 30 years, they'll have to sell it anyway, and they'll have to become a tenant for me or live in a really, really compromised accommodation situation. So everyone has a place in the economy. Either you play to win or you don't. Either or, all the best. And that's me.
No, that's really good. I think the weirdest one the lamest one I hear, or quite often from investors that are actually not savvy, is, great, this all looks good. I need to do my calculations and my numbers. And the reason I say that's lame is not because doing calculations and numbers is not good. That has to be done. It's part of due diligence and due diligence process. But when
Sean, with us, it's already done.
Exactly. Here's the thing, right? When people already have the numbers and then they say, I need to run the numbers, that is something that can be done even if you are bad at mathematics. It can be done in the span of 5 to 10 to 15 minutes for a variety of many different scenarios. So running the numbers is the lamest excuse I've ever heard personally, especially once numbers are already done. This is not just running numbers. This is running numbers once numbers are already done.
Wait, no. Let me jump in there. Sean, when we're doing numbers, we have done worst case scenario numbers. Like stuff that will never arise in the economy. Stuff that'll never. What if you have to pay 5% interest? What if you're vacant for 6 weeks? What if this happens? Like, we've run actual numbers, then we run worst case scenario numbers. Your property grows at 3%, 2%, 1% per annum. You know? Yet when people say that I got to run my numbers,
and the best thing is, just the way you explained it and you made sense out of it, the response back to that, which is super lame, is I need to digest the numbers. Oh.
Maybe they need some flaxseed. I don't know. I have no idea.
And I just got one more rapid round. So this one was not a rapid. This was more like a Grand Michigan Rapids round. But a rapid round, Robin, towards the end is, if you could only wear one pair of shoes for the rest of your life, which pair would be and why? Mark, let's go.
Very, very difficult question.
I know.
Very difficult.
And I've got a pair of shoes. I'm actually currently wearing them right now. Nike Prestos, black, triple black.
Shoes.
These ones. These are triple black Prestos that I've had since 2016, and these have literally been in 7 or 8 different countries with me. They have just done the rounds, and they're still fantastic shoes, super comfortable. They are between them or my RM Williams. I don't really know which one I would go with. It depends on if we're at the end of the world, or if I'm thrown off a helicopter in the bush or something like that. Different shoes for different days.
Great. But that's a good top 2 though. The Nike, what was the type of Nike again?
Nike Prestos.
Prestos, nice. Yes, what do we got? One pair.
This is the hardest thing. I think I've got more shoes than my wife, but it's just I've got a shoe problem. I'll tell you that. If one shoe would have to be like your all white, just like a Yeezy Boost, like straight up basic Yeezy Boost, or like maybe the Calabasas. That would be like a sneaker, but also I'm not like Adidas Nike fan. Like what really hits for me all occasion is like a clean pair of white Air Force Ones or Jordan 1s or something.
Oh, nice.
And if I really, really wanted to get a little bougie and wanted to be comfortable, would be a pair of Todd drivers, like just these beautiful loafers, suede, jeans, shirt, comfortable. I like to wear stuff with like, I'm not very much like a suit person. I like the look, but it's just not me. Like I like a nice Oxford shirt, pair of jeans, really nice sneakers, a pair of loafers, and that's sort of my vibe. So it is very hard for me. If I had to pick one, the Yeezy Boosts are really comfortable. The Air Force Ones are just timeless. Jordan 1s just the shoe game. But if I had to pick one, I'd go with the Air Force Ones, just plain white,
nice,
simple AF1 classic. Would be my forever shoe, I guess.
Wow. And you know what's funny? The three of us have never chatted about this topic ever before. Mark picks a Nike. Keshav picks a Nike. It's still a classic Air Force One. And I hope to see the loafers on the boat next time when we catch up, by the way. That'll be great. But yeah, for me, funnily enough, it's actually a Zoom Nike Kobe version 5.
Oh yeah, I know the ones.
That's my favorite pair of shoes. It's comfortable. I've won many games in it. I've played a lot. I've played in the streets. I've played in actual stadiums with it. It is something where I can wear it every day for the rest of my life because it's actually the last championship shoe Kobe Bryant ever used to win his final championship as well with. So when I was chanting, I just secured the order, purchased it, same spec, and it's still.
Do you have a certain colorway that you like?
The purple and gold.
Yeah,
the colorway I have now is the gold and white.
Yeah. No, 100%. No, that's an awesome question actually. Walk in my shoes, I guess. Walk in my shoes, Air Force Ones. That's what it is.
Next week's topic will be all about fashion sense and how to walk
No.
into a meeting.
I will leave that to Virgin Abloh and the directors at Louis Vuitton and Versace and whoever. I don't know who the fashion moguls are. I reckon you should wear what you're comfortable with, mate. Like what gets the job done. I often see like idiots in suits and idiots in shirts, but as long as you do the job well, whatever you're wearing doesn't really matter. On that note, I think we digress here. Thank you for the questions, Sean, Mark, with your permission, of course. Thank you, everyone who is listening. We're wrapping up another Friday Night Live. We've been doing it consistently and proud of you, lads. We've done well. I hope you got your answer about Rentvesting. If you're still confused at the end of it, come and have a chat with us. And if you don't sit on the fence, you only get splinters in your ass, watch my webinar Tuesday night, 7 o'clock. You can watch it from the comfort of your home. Please be there. Make sure you've got a nice warm drink, a cool drink, a beer, wine, tea, coffee, whatever you like. Have a notebook there. Notebook's critical. And make sure you take notes. I'm going to hang around in the end, do question and answers. Promise not selling you steak knives or vacuum cleaners or Amazon drop shipping billionaire secret ideas or any of that sort of stuff. Legit, if you're serious, come bring a notebook and learn with me. On that note, thank you very much. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Ruchi, for participating on a Friday Night Live. If you're watching this on repeat, type in a repeat in the chat. If you're watching it live, type in a quick live in the chat because we're going to have a sick gift for people who consistently watch it live every Friday. My love to you. Make sure you're safe. Hopefully, if you're in Sydney, Auntie Gladys lets us out on the 18th. If you haven't gotten your jab, really think about it. On that note, good night, take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now. I think we're getting